The knife hit the cutting board so hard the whole steel table shivered. Imani Vaughn didn't flinch. She just looked up, real slow, at the 7 men in black suits standing in a semicircle around her stainless steel prep station. Rain slid down the warehouse skylights in Incheon. The smell of oxtail, garlic, and toasted sesame hung in the air like a held breath. At the center of the semicircle stood Do-hyun Baek, 6'3", scar running from his left cheekbone to the corner of his mouth. The kind of man who walked into rooms and made the temperature drop. Behind him, his second, Jae-won, held a Glock loose against his thigh like it was a cell phone. "You have 30 seconds," Do-hyun said in that low, unhurried voice, "to tell me why my father, who has not tasted food in 4 days, ate 2 bowls of what you made." Imani wiped her hands on her apron. Her braids were pulled back tight. Flour dusted her forearm where she'd been rolling out biscuit dough at 3 in the morning, because sleep had stopped being an option somewhere around week 2. "Because it wasn't food," she said. "It was a memory, and your father recognized it." Jae-won's jaw tightened. One of the men muttered something in Korean. Do-hyun raised a single finger, and the room went silent again. "My father," he said, "is dying. My father does not recognize me, but he ate your grits." He stepped closer. Close enough that she could see the tiny cracks in his black leather gloves. "So, now, Ms. Vaughn, you belong to this family, until he goes, and then we'll talk about what you're worth alive." But to understand how Imani Vaughn ended up feeding the most dangerous man in South Korea from a cast-iron skillet at 3 a.m., we need to go back. This one is for every woman who's ever been told her gift was too small, too regional, too country, too black, too hers. For every daughter who learned to cook standing on a phone book next to her grandmother's stove, only to watch the world tell her that seasoning was unrefined and soul food wasn't elevated enough for the white tablecloth. For everyone still waiting on permission from a table that was never going to seat you anyway. Imani Vaughn didn't set out to feed a Korean crime family. She set out to save her mama's house in Charleston. What she found, 7,000 miles from home, was that the language of grief and the language of hunger are the same language everywhere on Earth. If you've ever had to prove yourself in a room that wasn't built for you, hit that subscribe button right now and drop a seasoned in the comments so I know you're rolling with me. Because the story I'm about to tell you, it's going to hurt in the places you thought had already healed. Let's go back to Charleston, 2 years before that warehouse. Charleston in July has a smell you can taste. Pluff mud, jasmine, hot asphalt, and salt off the harbor. Imani Vaughn had been smelling it for all 31 years of her life, and most days she loved it. Some days she wanted to run from it so bad her knees ached. She lived in the little pale yellow house on Noonan Street with her mother Delphine and a Yorkie named Biscuit. The mortgage was $41,000 behind. The county had sent the second notice in a red envelope. Her mother had put it in the drawer with the birthday cards and pretended it wasn't there. Delphine had been a nurse for 34 years at Roper Hospital. Then the stroke. Then the second stroke. Then the version of her mother that sometimes forgot Imani's name and sometimes called her by her dead sisters. Imani cooked at a restaurant on King Street called Verdant. Farm-to-table, white subway tile. $22 for a bowl of collards. The chef called braised southern greens with pot liquor foam. She was the Sioux. She had trained the chef actually 3 years ago when he was a line cook and couldn't tell smoked paprika from sweet. Now he made $185,000 a year and had a James Beard nomination hanging in the office. She made 42. She had done the math 100 times. Rent, meds, home health aid 4 days a week, the mortgage arrears, Biscuit's insulin. There was no version where the numbers worked. Her boyfriend of 4 years, Terrence, told her she needed to manifest abundance. Terrence had a podcast called Alpha Frequency with 211 listeners. He had moved into the Noonan Street house 18 months ago, temporarily. He had not paid a bill. When Imani cried, he told her she was being low vibrational. The lie she believed was this: if I just work harder, if I just love harder, if I just hold this all together a little longer, someone will finally see me and lift some of this off. Nobody was coming. She knew that in the part of her brain she didn't let herself visit. The night everything cracked open was a Tuesday. Verdant was hosting a private dinner for a Korean investment group looking at Charleston hotel properties. The chef, Gavin, had put Imani in charge of the menu because he was slammed, meaning he had a bumble date. She'd built the whole thing around her grandmother Wilma's recipes, but plated fancy. Shrimp and grits with a saffron butter glaze, oxtail braised in Coca-Cola and star anise, buttermilk biscuits the size of a silver dollar with sorghum and country ham. The lead investor was an old man in a wheelchair, silver hair, deep-set eyes. He didn't touch anything for the first 2 courses. His grandson, a serious-faced young man in a black suit, kept nodding at Imani through the pass with a small, curious frown. Then the oxtail came out. The old man took 1 bite, set his spoon down, and started to cry. Not loud, not showy, just tears sliding down a face that had probably not moved in a long time. He said something in Korean that Imani could not understand, but she understood the tone. It was the tone her mother used when she looked at old photos and remembered, for a second, who she used to be. The grandson stood up and asked in perfect English, "Who cooked this?" Gavin, who had shown up 30 minutes late smelling like whiskey, opened his mouth to answer. Imani stepped through the swinging door before he could lie. "I did," she said. The grandson looked at her for a long time. "My grandfather has not eaten in 6 days," he said quietly. "May I have your name?" She told him. He wrote it on the back of a business card in Korean characters and slid it into his jacket pocket. 2 days later, the offer arrived by courier. It came in a black envelope. The envelope contained 1 sheet of ivory paper and a plane ticket. The paper had 10 lines of handwritten English on it. "Miss Vaughn, my grandfather is dying. His doctors have given him 3 months. He has stopped eating. My family requests that you come to Incheon to cook for him for that time. We will pay you $200,000 US, deposited into any account you name, half now and half on completion. Your mother's home and medical costs will be handled during your absence by our people. A ticket is enclosed for Thursday. If you do not come, no one will bother you again." Debek Imani sat on the porch on Noonan Street and read it 4 times. Biscuit licked her ankle. The cicadas were screaming. $200,000. She looked at the ticket. Business class. Charleston to Atlanta to Incheon. Thursday was in 5 days. She told Terrence that night. He laughed. Told her it was probably a trafficking scam and she was gullible. Told her she wasn't cut out for that level of hustle, and she should focus on getting Gavin to give her a raise. Then he asked what was for dinner. She made him a sandwich. She watched him eat it. She realized, with a quiet that felt like standing in a snowfall, that she did not love him. She hadn't loved him in a long time. She'd been afraid of the silence he would leave behind. She called the number on the back of the ivory paper the next morning. A woman answered, efficient, American accent faintly. "Ms. Vaughn, my name is Sun-hee. I handle Mr. Beck's personal affairs. Do you have questions?" "Yes," Imani said. "Who is your family exactly? And why me?" There was a pause on the line. "Mr. Do-hyun Baek is the youngest son of Mr. Baek Cheol-min," Sun-hee said. "Our family has business interests in construction, shipping, hospitality, and private security across South Korea and Southeast Asia. Some of those interests are not, as you would say in America, entirely above the table. I tell you this because Mr. Do-hyun insists you know before you agree. He does not want you to arrive uninformed." Imani sat down on the kitchen floor. Biscuit crawled into her lap. "The oxtail," Sun-hee continued, softer now. Mr. Baek Cheol-min was born in a village outside Busan in 1943. During the war, an American black soldier from Alabama fed him and his mother from his ration kit for 7 months. Braised beef, cornmeal, greens boiled with fatback. It is the taste of the only kindness he received for 3 years. He has been trying to find that flavor his entire life. He tasted it Tuesday for the first time in 81 years. Imani was crying now. She didn't remember starting. "Your grandmother," Sun-hee said. "She was from Alabama." "Selma," Imani whispered. "How did you—" "We looked into you. I apologize. Mr. Do-hyun does not make offers to strangers. Imani stared at the phone. Ms. Vaughn, Sun-hee said, you should also know. Mr. Do-hyun has 3 brothers. 2 of them do not want the old man to eat. 2 of them are waiting for him to die. If you come to Incheon, you will be, in effect, working against them. Mr. Do-hyun wants you to know this before Thursday. The call ended. Imani sat on the floor for a long time. Then she got up, opened the drawer with the red envelope, and started packing. Incheon in October smelled like the sea and cold concrete. The compound was 2 hours south of the city, tucked into a valley of pine trees behind a wall that did not look like a wall until you were close enough to see the razor wire hidden in the ivy. Do-hyun met her at the Black Gate personally. He was younger than she'd thought, maybe 35. He bowed a fraction of an inch. He did not smile. Ms. Vaughn, thank you for coming. He walked her through a courtyard, past a koi pond, and into a house that was bigger than any restaurant she had ever worked in. Cedar beams, paper screens, a kitchen that looked like a laboratory, twin Multenny ranges, a walk-in aging cabinet, a wall of dry goods from every corner of the world. Your grandfather, she started, is in the East Wing. You will meet him tomorrow. Tonight, you rest. Soon he will bring you dinner. Tomorrow at 6 a.m. we begin. He turned to leave. She stopped him. Mr. Beck, your brothers. He turned back. His eyes were tired in a way she recognized from her own mirror. What about them? Sun-hee said 2 of them don't want him eating. Why? Do-hyun was quiet for a long moment. Rain started tapping the windows. My father built our organization from nothing after the war, he said. He has controlled it for 51 years. On the day of his death, control passes to whichever son is named in the sealed, will he keeps in a safe in this house. My oldest brother, Min-jae, and my second brother, Tae-oh, believe the will names one of them. My father has told me, privately, that it does not, that it names me, but only if I am the son who was with him at the end. He met her eyes. If my father eats, he lives longer. If he lives longer, my brothers have more time to remove me. There have been 2 attempts on my life in the last month. There will be more. When I brought you here, I did not just bring a cook into my home. I brought a target. Imani felt the floor tilt just a little. You didn't say that in the letter. No, because if I had, you would not have come, and my father would have died without ever tasting his mother's kitchen again. He paused. I will not lie to you again, Ms. Vaughn. That is my apology and my promise. Everything from this moment forward, you will hear the truth of, even when you do not want it. He bowed once more and left her standing in the kitchen. That night she couldn't sleep. She stood at the window, watching 2 men with rifles walk the perimeter in the rain. She thought about her mother in Charleston, safe now, with 3 nurses in the house and every bill paid. She thought about the little Yorkie curled up on her mother's bed. She thought about the oxtail. About her grandmother Wilma, who used to say, Baby, feeding somebody is telling them the truth about how much you see them. The next morning, at 5:47 a.m., she was in the kitchen with her sleeves rolled up. Do-hyun found her at the range, browning short ribs for a Korean Southern hybrid stew she was building in her head. He watched her work for a while. You are not afraid, he said. It wasn't a question. Oh, I'm afraid, she said, not looking up. But my grandmother used to say fear and cooking work on the same burner. You just gotta know which one you're feeding. For the first time, she saw his mouth twitch, almost a smile. Then Jae-won came running down the hall, face white, phone in his hand. Do-hyun, he said. Min-jae just landed at Gimpo. He's on his way here, with 20 men. Do-hyun set his hand flat on the counter and closed his eyes for 1 second. When he opened them, he looked at Imani. You have 2 options, he said. Option 1. Sun-hee drives you to the airport in 15 minutes. You are on a plane home before my brother arrives. The rest of the money hits your account within the hour. My father will die without eating again, but you will be alive. He picked up a paring knife from the counter, examined the blade, set it back down. Option 2. You stay, you cook. You meet my brother, who will try to buy you, then threaten you, then possibly worse. I cannot promise your safety. I can only promise this. I will not lie to you. I will not leave you alone in a room with any of them. And if we survive the next 90 days, you will walk out of here with $200,000, my family's protection for the rest of your life, and my personal debt, which is not a small thing. He met her eyes. This is not a rescue, Ms. Vaughn. I am not saving you. I am offering you tools, a kitchen, a door, a truth. What you do with them is yours. Imani looked at the pot on the range. The short ribs were browning too fast. She turned the burner down without thinking. She thought about Terrence, who would have never told her the truth about anything. She thought about Gavin taking credit for her food. She thought about her mother, who had spent 34 years making other people's dying easier, and got a stroke and a red envelope as thanks. She thought about all the rooms she had stood in where the men had smiled at her and lied. Do-hyun was not smiling. Do-hyun was telling her straight that he could not save her, which was the first honest thing a man in a position of power had said to her in her entire adult life. I have conditions, she said. He nodded. Say them. 1. My mother stays protected no matter what happens to me here, even if I die, especially if I die. That's in writing before the day is out. Done. 2. Nobody comes in my kitchen without my permission. I don't care whose son they are. I don't care whose gun they carry. When I am cooking for your father, this is my room. Done. 3. I cook for your father, not for you, not for your enemies, not for shows. If you want me to feed your brother when he gets here to keep the peace, you ask me. You don't tell me. And I get to say no. Something moved across his face. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. Done. 4. She wiped her hands on her apron. When this is over, whatever happens. You do not owe me your protection for life. That's too much. Nobody should owe anybody their whole life. You owe me one favor, whenever I need it. Whatever it is, no questions. That's the deal. Do-hyun looked at her for a long time. Ms. Vaughn, he said quietly, I have negotiated with generals and cartel accountants and government ministers. No one has ever asked me for less than they could get. I'm not asking for less, she said. I'm asking for the right amount. There's a difference. He bowed, deeper this time, almost formal. Agreed. All 4 terms. Sun-hee will draw up the paper before noon. He turned to Jae-won, who had been standing frozen in the doorway. Tell Min-jae's driver he is welcome. Prepare the reception hall. And Jae-won. He glanced back at Imani. Ms. Vaughn will decide whether she cooks for my brother. Do not ask her twice. Jae-won bowed and left. Do-hyun looked at Imani one more time. I did not expect you, he said. Then he left the kitchen too. She turned back to the short ribs. Her hands were shaking. She let them shake. She kept cooking anyway. At 11 a.m., Min Jae-baek arrived at the compound with 20 men, 3 black SUVs, and a smile that did not reach his eyes. At 11:47, he walked into her kitchen without knocking. He was taller than Do-hyun, softer through the middle, wearing a cream cashmere coat that probably cost more than the house Imani grew up in. He looked at her like she was a piece of furniture someone had left in the wrong room. You are the American cook, he said in flawless English. Interesting. I expected someone older. She kept dicing scallions. She did not look up. Mr. Baek, this is my kitchen. If you'd like to speak with me, please step back behind the doorframe. I don't allow anyone past the threshold while I'm working. There was a very long silence. Behind Min-jae, 2 of his men shifted. One put his hand near his waistband. Then Min-jae laughed, a short, dry sound. My brother has trained you to say that. Your brother, she said, still cutting, agreed to my terms. He didn't write them. Min-jae took 1 step back, just 1, but he took it. Very well, he said. I would like to hire you. Whatever my brother is paying, I will double it. You will cook for me instead. I have a house in Gangnam. Your mother will be moved to a private facility in Seoul, first class, no expense spared. You will never have to work again. She set down the knife, wiped her hands, looked at him for the first time. Mr. Bayek, your father is upstairs, dying. He hasn't eaten in 5 days again. I came here for one job. That job is not finished. I don't take a second job before the first one is done. My grandmother would beat me if I did. Minjai's smile flattened. You are refusing me. I'm honoring an agreement. Same thing your father would do. Something ugly flickered behind his eyes, but he bowed 1 degree and left the kitchen without another word. She stood there for a full minute after he was gone before she realized she was holding her breath. At noon, Sun-hee brought the signed paper protecting Imani's mother, notarized, in English and Korean, real. At 2, Imani carried a lacquered tray up the east wing stairs, silken tofu stew with pork belly and gochujang, a small bowl of steamed rice, a single buttermilk biscuit, warm, with a smear of sorghum butter. Baek Cheol-min was in a hospital bed by the window, 93 pounds of a man who had once been terrifying. His eyes were closed. Do-hyun sat beside him, holding his father's hand, whispering in Korean. Imani set the tray on the side table. She lifted the lid off the biscuit and let the steam roll out. Cheol-min's eyes opened. Do-hyun let go of his father's hand and stood back against the wall to give them space. He watched her feed his father, one small spoonful at a time. The old man ate the whole biscuit, half the stew, all of the rice. When he was done, he looked at Imani, reached out with a shaking hand, touched her cheek. He said one word in Korean. Yama. Do-hyun made a small, broken sound behind her. Later, in the hallway, he told her what it meant. Mother. He told her his father had not spoken his own mother's name in 40 years. For 6 weeks after that, Imani cooked, every day, 3 times a day, whether the old man could eat or not. She built a hybrid pantry that made no sense on paper. Wilma's cornmeal, gochujang, cane syrup, doenjang, buttermilk, perilla oil. She made dishes that had never existed before. Kimchi braised oxtail with cheese grits, soy brined fried chicken with collared kimchi, sweet potato biscuits with black sesame honey. Cheol-min ate. He gained back 9 pounds. His eyes were clearer. Min-jae came back twice. The second time, he brought a lawyer who tried to have Imani removed on visa grounds. Do-hyun's lawyer was better. The visa held. Then, on a Thursday in November, Jae-won found a listening device inside the pantry vent. By that night, Imani had made her decision. She was not just going to cook. She was going to fight. If this story is hitting you somewhere real, do me a favor and share it with one woman in your life who needs to hear that saying no is a full sentence. Come back. There's more. The confrontation happened in the great room of the compound 11 days later. Cheol-min called it himself. All 4 sons, both lawyers, Sun-hee, Jae-won. And, at the old man's specific request, Imani Vaughn, standing at his shoulder in a plain black dress, holding a lacquered tray with 4 small bowls on it. The old man sat in his wheelchair at the head of the room. His voice was thin but steady. He spoke in Korean. Sun-hee translated in a low voice into Imani's ear. I have been listening, Cheol-min said. For 6 weeks I have been listening while my sons believed I was dying. I have heard everything. The plans, the bribes, the device in the pantry vent, the offer in Gangnam, the lawyer with the visa. He looked at Min-jae, then at Tayo, who had flown in the day before with his own set of men. Then at his 3rd son, Woo-jin, who had said nothing this entire time, and who Imani had begun to suspect was the most dangerous of all. I have made my decision. It is written. It has been written for 2 years. He raised a shaking hand toward Imani. This woman fed me my mother's kitchen. She did not know she was doing it. She did it because a black soldier fed my mother when the world was ending, and that soldier's kindness lived in a girl in Alabama who taught her granddaughter how to season a pot. That is the world I want to leave behind, not the one you 3 have been building in the dark. He nodded to Sun-hee, who opened a folder and read the will aloud in Korean. Do-hyun. Everything, effective immediately. The room detonated. Minjai stood so fast his chair tipped over. Tayo shouted something Imani didn't need translated. Woojin only smiled, which was worse. Jaewon and 6 of Do-hyun's men stepped smoothly between the brothers and their father. Cheol-min raised his hand again. The room went quiet. He looked at Imani, spoke directly to her in careful, broken English. "Ms. Vaughn, the bowls, please." She set the tray down on the low table in front of him. 4 small bowls of pumpkin porridge. She had made it that morning. Hot, sweet, thickened with sweet rice flour, drizzled with a curl of sorghum. "1 bowl," Cheol-min said, "for each of my sons. In this house, we settle things at the table." Minjae stared at the bowl, his mouth twisted. "I am not eating a servant's food." "Then you are not eating in your father's house," Cheol-min said quietly. "Get out." Minjae left. Tayo followed after a long, ugly pause. Woojin stayed. Woojin picked up his bowl. Woojin ate. He looked at Imani over the rim of it and smiled his terrible smile, and she understood in that instant that the fight was not over. It had just changed shape. Do-hyun ate his bowl too, slowly, watching his father the whole time. Cheol-min ate his last, every spoonful. When he was done, he set the spoon down and closed his eyes. He died 4 hours later in his sleep. Imani was in the kitchen when Do-hyun came to tell her. He stood in the doorway. He did not cross the threshold because she had told him not to. "He is gone," Do-hyun said. She turned off the burner, wiped her hands, walked to him, and, without asking, put her arms around him. He stood very still for a long moment. Then, slowly, he lowered his head to her shoulder and let it rest there. He did not cry. He just breathed. In, out, like a man remembering how. "Thank you," he whispered, "for giving my father his mother back." She flew home to Charleston 3 days after the funeral. The house on Noonan Street looked smaller. The jasmine was gone. It was December now, and the air had that damp, bone-cold southern winter feel that never quite made it into the postcards. Her mother was sitting on the porch when she pulled up, wrapped in a blanket, alert, smiling. There was a nurse in the kitchen humming to the radio. Biscuit came tearing down the steps and lost his mind. Imani sat on the porch and held her mother's hand for a long time without talking. Then, on the 4th day home, Terrence showed up. He looked good. New haircut, new coat. He'd clearly been watching the house. "Baby," he said, "you're back." She looked at him from the top step, did not invite him in. "I heard you got some money," he said, "from that Korean gig. I'm proud of you, baby. I told you it was legit. I always believed in you." "You called it a trafficking scam, Terrence." "I was worried. That's love." He smiled, held out his arms. "Come on, let's start over. I got some real business ideas we can put that money into. I've been sketching out this app. Terrence. For Black entrepreneurs, like a networking thing, but with a spiritual... Terrence." He stopped. She stood up. She was not shaking this time. "I loved you," she said. "For a long time. I loved you when I shouldn't have. I loved you past the point it made sense. And I want you to know that, because I need you to understand that this is not anger talking. This is not that Korean money talking. This is not some new man talking." His face changed. "New man? What new?" "There's no new man. There's just a new me. And she doesn't have room in her house for somebody who called her low vibrational for crying about her dying mama. Imani, come on. You've got till the end of this porch step to leave. After that, I call the number I was told to call if I ever needed anything. And the man on the other end of that number doesn't ask questions, Terrence. He just handles things." Terrence looked at her, really looked, and whatever he saw in her face made him back up 2 steps without meaning to. "You've changed," he said. "No," she said. "I remembered." He left. She sat back down on the porch. Her mother squeezed her hand. "That boy was never right, baby," Delphine said, clear as a bell. It was one of her good days. "I never said it because you were carrying so much. but that boy was never right. Imani started laughing. Then she started crying. Then she started laughing again. Biscuit licked her face. She sat on that porch until the sun went down and the streetlights came on. And for the first time in years, she was not thinking about a single bill. She did not open a restaurant. Everybody expected her to. $200,000, a story like hers, Charleston bones. Everybody said, "Open the restaurant, baby." Reporters started calling. A food magazine offered her a cover. A production company offered her a show. She said no to all of it. Instead, 6 months after she got home, she bought a 2-story building on Cannon Street that had been a black-owned funeral home in the 60s and a boarded-up nothing since 1994. She paid cash. She spent 4 months gutting it herself with her cousin Rashad and a crew of 3, and she opened it in September as Wilma's Table. It was not a restaurant. It was a cooking school. 12 seats. Free tuition for any woman in the Low Country who was the primary caretaker for a sick parent, a disabled child, or a grandparent. 12 weeks, knife skills, braising, bread, stocks, butchery, books, pricing, payroll, how to negotiate a lease, how to write a business plan, how to say no to a man who calls you low vibrational. She taught the first cohort herself, every Tuesday and Thursday. Verdant closed within the year, not because of her, because Gavin got caught wage-stealing from 3-line cooks, and his James Beard nod evaporated. She didn't celebrate. She just kept teaching. Her mother came to every graduation, sat in the front row in a red hat. Sometimes she remembered where she was, and sometimes she didn't, but she always clapped. By the end of the second year, Wilma's Table had graduated 47 women. 9 of them had opened their own food businesses. 2 had bought their mother's houses out of foreclosure. 1 had written a cookbook that got optioned for a documentary. Imani paid off the Noonan Street house in full, framed the deed, hung it in the school kitchen right above the biscuit station. She was 33 years old. She owned her building. She owned her mother's house. She owned her name. She did not need anybody to save her. She had quietly and completely saved herself. Dohyun came to Charleston in the spring of the 3rd year. He did not call ahead. He did not send a courier with an ivory envelope. He just walked into Wilma's Table on a Tuesday afternoon, while she was showing a student how to render bacon fat properly, and stood at the door with his hands in the pockets of a dark coat, waiting to be noticed. She noticed. Her hand stopped moving over the pan. She washed her hands, walked over, looked at him. "You didn't call," she said. "I did not know if you would answer," he said. She almost smiled. "That's fair." They walked down to the harbor together. It was warm. The water was the color of old jade. He looked good, tired around the eyes, but good. "How's the family?" she asked. "Stable. Min-jae is in Vancouver. He does not come back. Teo runs the shipping side. He and I have an understanding. Woo Jin." He paused. "Woo Jin died last year." "I did not order it. I want you to know that." "I believe you." They walked in silence for a while. "I did not come here to ask for the favor," he said finally. "I know. I came here because I wanted to see you, and because I have been trying for 2 years to build something I do not yet have a word for, and I realized that the only person who has ever seen me clearly enough to help me name it is standing on Cannon Street teaching a woman how to render bacon." She looked at him. He looked at her. "I'm not moving to Korea, Do-hyun." "I know. And you can't move here, not really, not with what you carry." "I know that too. So what are we doing?" He was quiet for a long moment. "We are 2 people," he said, "who owe each other nothing, and who have chosen anyway to keep telling each other the truth. I do not know what that becomes. I only know I do not want to stop." She thought about that. "Okay," she said. "Okay? Okay. Come to dinner." "My mama wants to meet the man who ate her granddaughter-in-law's oxtail and lived. Her words." He laughed. She had never heard him laugh before. It was a good sound. Here is what Imani Vaughn learned. She learned that the world will let you carry everything until you break, and then it will step over the pieces of you on its way to somebody it thinks is more important. She learned that men will offer to save you, and men will offer to buy you, and once in a lifetime, if you are very lucky, a man will offer you tools and step back and let you build. She learned that the difference between being rescued and being seen is the difference between a cage and a kitchen. She learned that her grandmother's recipes were not small. They were a language spoken across oceans by people who had been fed with kindness in their worst hours and had spent the rest of their lives trying to feed it back. She learned that saying no is a full sentence, that love without honesty is just decoration, that the right amount is not the same as the smallest amount, and that asking for the right amount is the most powerful thing a woman can learn to do. She did not get a fairy tale ending. She got something better. She got herself back. And she built a table wide enough that other women could come sit down and get themselves back too. If this story moved you, do 3 things for me. Drop a comment and tell me the moment you started asking for the right amount. Share this with a woman who's carrying more than her share. And subscribe, because next week I've got another story about a woman the world underestimated until it couldn't anymore. Until then, season your pot, set your terms, and feed the people who see you. That's the whole recipe.